My dad said, "I'll always love your sister more. She's not a burden." So I left, moved out, went silent. Then 6 months later, he got a letter. "Congratulations, you've been unsubscribed from my life." I remember exactly how it felt. Cold, like someone had scraped out everything inside me and left the shell standing. It was mid-January, that kind of gray cold that seeps into your bones and makes your breath feel like smoke. I was sitting at the kitchen table in my dad's house, the house I grew up in, clutching a mug of coffee that had long gone lukewarm. He was pacing. That was his thing. Whenever something uncomfortable came up, he'd pace like it made him smarter. I had just told him I was thinking of taking a leave from college, that I couldn't handle everything. The grades, the part-time job, the constant pressure. I was barely sleeping. Anxiety attacks, depression, therapy twice a week. I was trying to ask for support. He stopped mid-step and looked at me like I'd just confessed to murder. "You know," he said slowly, "your sister never needed this kind of drama." I blinked. Jenna knew what she wanted. She worked hard. She didn't sit around whining about being overwhelmed. She just handled her business. She's not a burden. I didn't say anything. I just sat there, staring at the tile floor like it would open up and swallow me. And then he added, like it was the most natural thing in the world, like he was saying the sky was blue, "I'll always love your sister more. She's not a burden." There it was, just like that, out loud. No hesitation, no softening. I remember standing up, not angrily, not dramatically, just like a marionette whose strings had been cut. He didn't even ask where I was going. He just muttered something about how I always overreact. I packed that night. One duffel bag. I left the PlayStation he bought me 2 birthdays ago. I didn't want anything from him. I didn't want to owe him even a single button. I moved in with Cam, my best friend since middle school. He had a couch, and more importantly, he had a mom who didn't look at me like I was defective. I blocked my dad's number a week later, after he left a voicemail telling me to stop punishing him with silence. Not come home, not, "Are you okay?" Just the kind of guilt trip he specialized in. Narcissism disguised as concern. For 6 months, I didn't speak to him, didn't visit, didn't respond to the Facebook tags from Jenna about missing family dinners. I didn't care how that made me look. I was done being the designated disappointment. And then, one day in June, I mailed him a letter, handwritten, no return address, just one sentence. "Congratulations, you've been unsubscribed from my life." Tucked inside was a printout of our last text exchange, the one where I asked, "Do you love me?" And he replied, "Not when you act like this." I burned the original after I sent it, because that version of me, the one still begging for scraps of affection, he was gone, and I was about to make damn sure my dad never forgot it. Living with Cam wasn't easy, but it was honest. We shared his cramped one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat that always smelled like bleach and desperation. I slept on a couch that sagged in the middle and creaked every time I rolled over. His mom, Teresa, worked night shifts at the hospital and left little post-it notes for us on the fridge. "Eat the chicken. Take the trash out. You matter." That last one stayed up for weeks. Cam never asked questions he knew I couldn't answer. He just passed me a controller at night, threw a blanket at my face and said, "Try not to cry too loud. I got work in the morning." I didn't cry. Not at first. I was too numb. But the silence at 2 a.m. hits different when it's filled with everything you wanted your dad to say but never did. Jenna called 3 times that first week, then sent a long message. "I don't get why you're doing this. Dad's just old school." He didn't mean it like that. "You're being super dramatic." Old school. Right. She was always the golden girl. Jenna, 28 female, smart, polished, married to some finance guy named Chris who wore Patagonia vests unironically and said things like, "Circle back." My dad used to introduce her like she was a prize he won. Jenna's got a 6-figure job now. Full benefits, company car. You know what I had? Panic attacks in Target, a scholarship I was probably going to lose, and a therapist named Melissa who kept asking, "And how did that make you feel?" I didn't respond to Jenna. I left her on red. She sent another message a few days later. "You think I had it easy? Dad just expects more from you because he believes in you. Maybe stop running and start proving him wrong." I stared at that message for a long time. Believes in you. Is that what love looks like? Ranking your kids like performance reviews? Telling one they're a burden and then acting like the other deserves a trophy for not breaking under pressure? I got a job at a bookstore 2 blocks from Cam's place. Minimum wage, but it kept me busy. I liked the quiet, the smell of old pages, the way customers would treat me like a human being just because I helped them find some obscure memoir they didn't know they needed. One night, I stayed late shelving and found a book someone had tucked behind a row of romance novels. The cover was ripped, the spine broken, but on the first page, someone had written in pen, "I hope you leave. I hope you live. I hope you never go back to people who made you forget your worth." I don't know who wrote it. I don't care. I took it home, put it under my pillow, and slept better that night than I had in months. Back at home, the house I used to call home, my dad was apparently telling people I was going through a phase, that I'd be back once I got over myself. Jenna told my aunt I was staying with some dropout friend and working retail. Like it was a cautionary tale, not survival. But here's the thing about rock bottom. If you dig long enough, sometimes you hit something solid, something real, and I was about to build a whole new life on it. 3 months in, I stopped checking for their names on my phone. No more voicemails from dad I'd delete without listening to. No more passive-aggressive texts from Jenna about how hard this has been for everyone. No more guilt-tripping Facebook posts with stock photo sunsets and captions like, "Family is everything." Everything got quieter. I was working more shifts at the bookstore. They let me start designing the front displays. Turns out, I was good at pairing books that made people cry and buy. One woman hugged me after I recommended a novel about grief, said her husband died last fall and she hadn't cried until page 47. I didn't know what to say, so I just stood there and nodded while she wept on my shoulder. But something cracked open in me that night. Something good. Cam started calling me stable boy, half joking. "Look at you, paying bills, folding laundry, eating stuff that isn't ramen. Who are you? And what have you done with sad version of you?" And yeah, I was getting better. Slowly, until Jenna showed up in person. It was a Saturday. I had just finished closing up the shop. The sky was that kind of pink that makes you nostalgic for things you never had. I was locking the front door when I saw her standing by the trash bins in a beige trench coat like she was in a soap opera. "Wow," she said. "This is where you work?" "No, hi. No, how are you?" Just judgment wrapped in fake concern. I didn't answer, just turned the key and started walking. She followed. "Look, I get that you're hurt," she said. "But ghosting everyone? Acting like a victim? It's immature." I stopped. She kept going. "Dad's not perfect, but he loves you. He's just under a lot of pressure. You think he's never struggled?" My voice came out colder than I expected. "He said he'll always love you more, that I'm a burden." Out loud, Jenna. Like he was talking about the weather. She flinched. The first real crack I'd seen in her facade, but she recovered fast. "Yeah, well, maybe he was just being honest. Maybe you have been hard to love lately." That hit harder than I want to admit. Hard to love. It echoed in my chest like a bat in an empty attic. I walked away. Didn't look back. That night, Cam found me sitting on the fire escape, knees pulled to my chest, shaking with adrenaline and shame. "Family?" I said, laughing bitterly. "What a joke." Cam didn't say anything for a long time. Then he handed me a cigarette even though I don't smoke and said, "You know, being related to someone doesn't mean you owe them your soul." That line stuck with me. Because what they wanted, what my dad expected, was my silence, my obedience, my willingness to absorb his disappointment like a sponge. And I wasn't going to do that anymore. I started making plans. Not escape plans. I'd already escaped. No, this was something else. A reckoning. It started as a half joke in my head. A single sentence. "Congratulations, you've been unsubscribed from my life." But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it wasn't a joke. It was a mission statement, and I was going to make damn sure he understood what that meant. It started with the house key. I had one, still. A backup I'd forgotten about, buried in a coat pocket from another life. I found it one night while digging for change in the laundromat and just froze. It felt like holding a relic. Cold metal, jagged edge. The key to a place I used to beg to belong to. And for some reason, I didn't throw it away. I carried it around for weeks. Touched it like a rosary whenever I started doubting myself. Sometimes I'd hold it in my fist so tight it left marks. A reminder. You left, you survived, don't go back. Then Cam got the call. He was listed as my emergency contact on everything now. School, health, even the temp health insurance I scraped together through the bookstore job. So when my dad couldn't reach me, he tried Cam. "Your boy's being dramatic," he said. "Tell him to come home already. His little stunt's gone on long enough." Cam told him to go to hell, then blocked his number. But it lit a fuse in me I couldn't smother, because that call, that smug little jab, meant my dad still thought this was a phase, a tantrum, a kid sulking in a treehouse waiting for someone to say sorry. So I wrote the letter. 2 sentences. "Congratulations, you've been unsubscribed from my life." Attached. A printed copy of our last text exchange. No threats, no accusations, just the facts. The last thing he ever said to me. "Not when you act like this." I mailed it on a Tuesday, return address blacked out, dropped it in the blue box down by the corner store, heart pounding like I was defusing a bomb. I expected silence. What I got was the beginning of a full-blown meltdown. 3 days later, Cam got a voicemail. My dad's voice, tight with rage. "You think this is funny? Playing games? Fine. You want to cut ties? We'll see how far you get without us." Without us. Like I hadn't been doing that for 6 months. Like I hadn't clawed my way back to sanity without a single dollar, a single apology, a single shred of basic human decency. Then Jenna texted, and this time she wasn't fake nice. "You've seriously lost it. What the hell is wrong with you? Do you know what this is doing to Mom?" I hadn't heard Mom's voice in nearly a year. She'd always been the silent enabler, the one who made excuses, changed the subject, smiled through the pain like it was a social obligation. Apparently, now she was crying. Not when I left, not when I said I felt like a ghost in my own home. But now that I had formally rejected the family brand, the image, the role, that's when it hit me. They didn't want me back. Not really. They wanted the version of me who kept the peace. The background character. The family scapegoat who absorbed the dysfunction so Jenna could shine and Dad could pretend he wasn't broken inside. And now that I was gone, the cracks were showing. Cam called it emotional gravity. Said when someone finally escapes a toxic orbit, the planet starts to wobble. And wobble it did. Because the next move, that was pure desperation. My dad showed up at the bookstore in a button-down shirt like he thought dressing respectable would erase everything he'd ever said. He asked to speak with me in private. I said no, so he started yelling. In the middle of the shop, in front of customers, spit flying, face red, saying I was ungrateful, dramatic, emotionally unstable, every word louder than the last. My manager called security. Cam showed up 15 minutes later, just in time to watch my dad get escorted out while screaming, "You're making a mistake. We're your family. You don't do this to family." I didn't say a word. I just watched the door close behind him, watched it seal, and knew exactly what I was going to do next. Update 1, posted 2 days after the blow-up at the bookstore. So, yeah, wow, I did not expect this to blow up like it did. First off, thank you. For real. Some of your comments hit harder than therapy. Some of you shared your own stories. And damn, I wasn't ready for how many of us grew up in houses that felt more like performance stages than homes. Y'all made me feel less alone. That means more than I can explain. Also, yes, I saw the top comment that said, "Print that letter and frame it above your bed." That's generational healing. I actually might. Now let me tell you what's happened since my dad's Oscar-worthy bookstore meltdown. 2 days later, I got a letter. Not an email, not a text. An actual letter, written in my mom's handwriting on a piece of floral stationery she probably bought back when Blockbuster still existed. It was 3 pages long. Not once did it say the words, "I'm sorry." Instead, it was filled with lines like, "You're not the only one who's hurting. Your father grew up without affection. He doesn't know better. You're being cruel. Jenna's devastated. Why would you humiliate your father like that?" Humiliate? I sat there quietly while he screamed at me in front of a pregnant woman and a guy holding a hardcover of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. He humiliated himself. But that's the thing, right? These people treat my pain like a personal attack. Me healing is somehow offensive. Me not coming back is betrayal. I didn't reply. I just took the letter, folded it carefully, and put it in the back of that same book I found. The one with the handwritten line, "I hope you leave. I hope you live." But here's the wildest part. Yesterday, my old college roommate texted me, "Bro, did your dad post about you on Facebook?" I hadn't looked. I'd blocked him ages ago, but Cam still had a burner account. He pulled it up. There it was. A full post. 500 words. A public cry fest titled, "When Your Own Child Turns Against You, A Father's Grief." He called me mentally unstable, said I'd been influenced by dangerous people, claimed I was being manipulated by toxic outsiders. Translation, Cam. And of course, he ended it with, "We will always keep the door open for our son when he's ready to stop punishing his family." Punishing. That word stuck in my throat like bile. They don't want me to heal. They want me to repent, to come crawling back, apologize for daring to set boundaries, and beg for the privilege of being ignored respectfully again. So you know what I did? I started planning. Not just how to stay away, but how to redefine the narrative, on my terms. Because it's not enough for him to be cut off. He needs to feel it. The silence wasn't working. He twisted it into a martyr complex. Fine. He wants attention? He's going to get it, but not the kind he's used to. I have the key. I have the stories, and I have nothing left to lose. Next time he tries to weaponize family, I'm going to remind him exactly what kind of legacy he left behind, in front of the people who matter most to him. The man wants drama? I'm going to hand him a masterpiece. I wasn't aiming to hurt him. At first, I just wanted closure, distance, peace. But after that Facebook post, after being called mentally unstable, manipulated, a punishment, I realized something. He needed consequences. Not in the way he was used to dishing them out. Not screaming matches or guilt trips or cold shoulders over dinner. I was going to show him exactly what it feels like when your image cracks in public, when your mask slips and people stop clapping. So I started collecting things. Little things. Screenshots of texts Jenna had sent me over the years. Snide comments, subtle threats. Even one where she joked that therapy is just an excuse to avoid real work. A photo from my senior year, the one where I won the state creative writing competition, and neither of them showed up because Jenna had a work dinner and Dad wasn't feeling great. I gathered stories from cousins, from extended family members who reached out after the Facebook post, confused. Is everything okay with your dad? That post seemed weird. They'd always suspected something was off, but they never knew how deep it went. Now they were listening. I didn't scream. I didn't rage. I curated. And then I wrote something. Not a post, not a reply, a speech. Cam's cousin Ray, who I hadn't talked to in years, was getting married and had invited both Cam and me to the rehearsal dinner, a low-key backyard thing. Her dad and mine used to work together before everything fell apart. I wasn't going to go, but then I found out my dad was invited too, through the old work network. He didn't know I'd be there. Perfect. I showed up in a navy suit I bought secondhand and tailored myself. Clean-shaven, calm. I looked respectable, dangerous. I let the night breathe first. Small talk, drinks, polite laughter. My dad saw me across the lawn and did a double take. You could see the calculations behind his eyes. Do I approach? Do I smile? Do I play victim? He didn't get the chance. When it was time for toasts, Ray asked a few of us to share memories. I wasn't originally on the list, but I stepped forward, glass in hand. I'd like to say something, I said. The microphone felt warm in my palm. I didn't name him. I didn't have to. I used to believe love was something you had to earn, I began. That if you just tried hard enough, got your grades high enough, smiled wide enough, maybe, just maybe, the people who were supposed to protect you would finally notice you were bleeding. The crowd was silent. I scanned the faces. Some frozen, some nodding. His, pale. I learned that some people only love the version of you that serves their ego, that their support has terms and conditions, that they only call it love when you shrink enough to fit inside their expectations. A few heads turned toward him now. But I also learned you can unsubscribe. You can walk away. And sometimes, walking away isn't betrayal, it's survival. I raised my glass. To chosen family. To healing. To never letting someone rewrite your story just because they can't stand how it ends. There was a beat of silence, then applause. Not thunderous, not theatrical, but real. My dad didn't clap. He left 20 minutes later without saying a word, but not before passing by me and muttering, "You think you're better than us now?" I didn't even look at him. I just said, loud enough for those around us to hear, "No, I just finally know I'm not worse." It took less than 48 hours. That's how long it took for Jenna to text me in all caps. "What the hell did you say at that dinner?" Apparently, word travels fast in suburban Facebook mom circles. My speech, the one that never even mentioned names, was already a wildfire. One of Ray's cousins had posted a video clip, just the last 30 seconds. It went semi-viral in our hometown group. Comments started rolling in. This hit way too close to home. Sounds like someone had a narcissist for a dad. I don't know who this young man is, but I hope he's okay now. He was tagged. Repeatedly. People knew. And my dad? My dad was spiraling. I heard through Cam, who heard through his mom, who heard through the cousin of someone who goes to church with my parents. You know how it is. That dad tried to do damage control by telling people I'd had a breakdown, that I was off my meds, that I always had a flair for drama. But here's the kicker. He forgot people remember. They remember how he used to talk about me, how he'd roll his eyes when someone asked how I was doing, how Jenna was the one he paraded, while I was the moody one, the drain, the kid who never lived up to potential. He forgot that his image wasn't as airtight as he thought. Then came the blow that twisted the knife. Jenna's husband, Chris, the finance bro with veneers and vests, reached out. I swear to God. He messaged me on LinkedIn of all places like it was a merger proposal. "Hey man, just wanted to say, I saw the video. Didn't know things were that bad growing up. Jenna never really talked about it. If you ever want to grab a coffee, I'd like to hear more." I didn't respond. But I read it a dozen times. Even Chris was cracking. And that, apparently, was the final straw. Because that weekend I got an email, not from Dad, from a lawyer. He was threatening defamation, said my public comments had harmed his personal and professional reputation, and created emotional distress. I laughed so hard I nearly fell off Cam's kitchen stool. The man who told his son he was a burden was now claiming emotional distress. Cam wanted to frame the email. I didn't reply. I forwarded it to a lawyer friend of Cam's with one sentence. "Do I need to care?" She replied, "Not unless you start naming names and printing t-shirts," which, side note, I might still do. But here's the part that caught me off guard. The thing that I wasn't prepared for. The thing that hurt way more than it should have. My mom finally reached out. A voicemail. Shaky. Quiet. 10 seconds long. "You've made your point. Can't you just come home now?" I listened to it 3 times. Because underneath the exhaustion and the guilt tripping, there was something else. Not regret, but loneliness. And I realized then, she wasn't calling me back because she missed me. She was calling because the illusion was gone. The golden family she'd spent years polishing had cracked, and without me there to mop up the mess, she didn't know how to keep it together. She missed the scapegoat, not the son. And I wasn't going to be that ever again. Update 2. Posted 1 week after the defamation email and voicemail from mom. Okay, deep breath. This one's hard. I didn't expect to feel anything anymore. Not after the letter, the Facebook smear campaign, the voicemail from mom that basically boiled down to, "We miss the version of you that didn't set boundaries." But something happened that messed with my head. My dad showed up at the bookstore again. No yelling this time, no theatrics. He just stood outside behind the glass, holding something. A photo. It was me and him. I was maybe 8. We were at a baseball game. He had his arm around my shoulder and we were both laughing. I remember that day. We ate chili dogs and I spilled mustard on my shirt, and he made a joke that made me laugh so hard I snorted root beer out of my nose. He taped the photo to the window and walked away. That's it. Didn't come in, didn't speak, just left that piece of memory like a landmine. I stood there staring at it long after he was gone. Felt like someone took a crowbar to my ribs. Because yes, he was cruel, manipulative, petty, a narcissist probably, but he was also my dad. And there were moments, good ones, quiet ones, ones where I forgot to brace for impact. That's what made it so damn hard. Cam found me crying in the stockroom that night. Full on. Couldn't breathe, sobbing. I hadn't cried since the night I left. I thought I was done grieving. "You're allowed to miss the version of him who loved you," Cam said, sitting beside me. Even if he never really existed. That line broke me. Because yeah, I miss the dad I thought I had, but I don't miss the man who looked me in the eyes and said my sister wasn't a burden. And I was. I don't miss the man who called my healing a punishment. And that's why I sent the final letter. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of clarity. It was short, printed on plain paper. No return address. There is no home to return to. You broke it when you ranked your children. You shattered it when you called me a burden. This is not rebellion. This is reclamation. Stop contacting me. Consider this your final unsubscribe confirmation. Your former son. I dropped it in the same blue mailbox as before. And then I blocked every number, every email, every account. This time, for good. Some of you messaged me saying, "Cutting off family is the hardest thing you'll ever do." You weren't wrong. It feels like amputating a limb that's already gone gangrenous. Necessary. Life-saving. But still, it leaves a phantom ache. Still, it's quiet now. My phone doesn't buzz with guilt. My days don't start with dread. I sleep. And that photo, the one he taped to the glass, I took it home. Burned it. Not out of hate, but to let it go. Some fires don't destroy you. They cleanse. I kept expecting the world to feel different after I burned the photo. Like I'd wake up the next day and feel lighter, healed, free. But healing isn't cinematic. It's not this triumphant music swell and a sunset. It's quiet, messy, awkward. It's standing in the shower and realizing you still flinch at sudden noises. It's walking past a father hugging his kid and feeling something crack in your chest, sharp and hollow. It's grocery shopping and instinctively reaching for the cereal he used to eat, then catching yourself, hand frozen midair, heart sinking. But it's also something else. It's drinking coffee without your stomach nodding. It's laughing without checking the room first. It's silence that doesn't feel like punishment. Cam and I moved. We found a slightly bigger place. Still cheap, still full of peeling paint and charm, but it was ours. I got promoted at the bookstore. Assistant manager, which sounds lame unless you've clawed your way up from sleeping on a friend's couch with nothing but trauma and duct-taped dignity. I started writing again. Short pieces. Poetry mostly. Stuff I used to hide because I was told it was soft. Because every time I shared something vulnerable growing up, Dad would say, "Don't be dramatic. Toughen up." But now, I write and post it. No apologies. One of my poems went a little viral. Cam printed it out and taped it to the fridge. It ends with the line, "I am not the absence they left. I am what bloomed in spite of it." And I guess that's what this all is now. Not revenge. Not even survival anymore. It's reclamation. Taking back the pieces of myself they called weak and realizing they were never weaknesses. They were roots. Strong. Stubborn. Quietly growing through concrete. I started therapy again too. Real therapy. With someone who doesn't blink when I say things like, "My dad called me a burden and I believed him for 20 years. We unpacked things I didn't even know were still stuffed inside me. The shame. The people-pleasing. The way I still sometimes second-guess my own happiness because it feels undeserved. It's hard. Brutal, even. But every time I leave her office, I feel like I've set down another brick. And slowly, this invisible weight I've carried, the pressure to be enough, the echo of not being chosen, it's lifting. Jenna tried texting from a new number last week. "Mom's not doing well. Maybe if you just..." I blocked it immediately. Because I finally learned, empathy doesn't mean returning to the fire just because someone else refuses to leave it. I can care. I can grieve, but I won't burn again. And yeah, maybe I'll always carry the scars of being unloved by someone who was supposed to protect me, but they're just that now. Scars. Not open wounds. Not maps back to pain. Just proof I healed. And I'm not done yet. There's one last thing I need to do. One last conversation I've avoided. One door I have to close, face to face. Because while the fire inside me has dimmed, the smoke still lingers. I didn't plan it. I was at the DMV of all places, waiting to update my address. Long line, bad lighting, the smell of old paper and regret. And there he was, my dad. Same ratty jacket, same impatient tapping, same way of scanning the room like everyone owed him something. He didn't see me, not at first. I could have left, slipped out, waited in my car until he was gone, but I didn't. I stepped into line behind him, heart pounding like a war drum. He turned, froze. "Hey," he said, voice small, fragile even. "Didn't expect to see you here." I didn't smile, didn't blink. "I know." We stood there in silence for what felt like 100 years. Then he said it. "I saw the letter." I nodded. "And the video. What you said. At the dinner." I said nothing. He fidgeted, scratched his neck. "You made me look like a monster." I let out a breath, not a sigh, a release. "You did that all by yourself." He swallowed hard, looked down at the floor. "I was trying to raise you tough," he mumbled. "Didn't want you to end up weak, like me." That caught me off guard. "Then why call me a burden?" I asked finally. He didn't have an answer, just stared at the number board above the counter like it held salvation. After a beat, he said, "You always felt distant." Jenna was easy. I didn't know how to reach you." I laughed. Not kindly. "You didn't try. You just decided I wasn't worth the effort." More silence. Then, a whisper. "I miss you." And there it was. The bait, the script, the final performance. But I didn't take it. "I don't miss you," I said calmly. "I miss the version of you I made up in my head so I could survive." That hit him. Hard. His jaw clenched. His eyes glistened, but he didn't cry. My dad never cried. Not at my graduation. Not when I left. Not even when I told him I wasn't coming back. I stepped forward, close enough for him to hear, but not close enough to be mistaken for intimacy. "I'm doing okay now," I said. "Better than okay. I sleep. I write. I don't feel like a ghost anymore." He nodded slowly, eyes fixed on his shoes. "You don't owe me anything," he said. I smiled, just a little. "You're right. My number was called." I walked away, didn't look back, and that was the real ending. Not the Facebook post, not the letter, not even the speech. It was that moment. That quiet, unspectacular moment where I got to walk away without guilt, without fear, without apology, just me, whole for the first time, stepping fully into my own life, unsubscribed, but finally, free.